Throughout history, men have always asked themselves a single burning question. What does it mean to be intelligent? For some, intelligence is about academic knowledge, about books, theories, and certificates that prove one's education. For others, it is about being quick-witted, sharp in conversation, and clever in solving puzzles. But Machiavelli, the ruthless observer of power, understood intelligence differently. To him, intelligence was not an abstract idea, nor a performance to impress others. It was something far more brutal, far more practical. For Machiavelli, intelligence was power in action. It was not what you knew, but what you could do with what you knew. It was the ability to survive the traps of others, to manipulate events in your favor, to rise above the herd and bend circumstances to your will. In his eyes, intelligence was a weapon that could be sharpened, wielded, or wasted. And the most dangerous truth of all, intelligence operates in levels. Not all minds are equal. Some people remain stuck in the lowest stages, where they are little more than parrots repeating what others say. Others climb higher, mastering subtlety, foresight, and strategy. And only the rarest few ascend to the peak, where intelligence becomes indistinguishable from raw dominance. So today, we will break down the 5 levels of intelligence according to Machiavellian logic. Each level reveals not only how you think, but how you live, how you act, and how much control you truly wield over your destiny. Ask yourself honestly as we progress. Which level are you trapped in? And more importantly, are you willing to climb higher? Level 1, the imitator. At the very bottom lies the imitator. This is where the majority of humanity is stuck. The imitator does not think for himself. He merely copies what others do, say, and believe. His knowledge is not his own. It is borrowed, recycled, secondhand. He follows trends, repeats slogans, and molds himself into whatever the crowd accepts. His opinions are not born from reason, but inherited from society. He is a mirror, never a lamp. Machiavelli saw such people as fodder. They are the obedient masses, the soldiers, the workers, the ones who fill the ranks but never lead. They are controlled with ease because they fear isolation. Their greatest terror is to stand apart, so they cling to imitation as if it were life itself. If you are an imitator, your intelligence is trapped in a cage of conformity. You may survive, but you will never rule. You may be liked, but you will never be respected. Level 2, the gatherer of knowledge. A step above the imitator is the gatherer of knowledge. Unlike the herd, this person hungers for information. He reads, studies, collects facts, and fills his mind with ideas. He separates himself from the crowd by seeking understanding. This level is rare because it demands effort. The gatherer is often admired as the smart one among his peers, the person who seems to know more than everyone else. But there is a hidden weakness here. The gatherer mistakes quantity of knowledge for quality of intelligence. He collects information endlessly, but often fails to act. He becomes a library that no one opens, a man with countless maps but no journey. Machiavelli would remind him, knowledge means nothing if it cannot be used strategically. The gatherer can explain the game, but he cannot win it. He can analyze endlessly, but freezes when it is time to strike. Still, this stage is crucial. It is the foundation. For from here, if one dares to apply, to sharpen, to risk, the climb to real power begins. Level 3, the analyzer and strategist. At this stage, intelligence takes on a sharper form. The analyzer does not merely collect knowledge, he dissects it. He searches for patterns, weighs consequences, and anticipates outcomes. He is no longer satisfied with what is. He wants to know why and what happens next. This is the level of the tactician, the planner, the one who thinks 3 steps ahead. Machiavelli respected this form of intelligence deeply because it is here that the seeds of power are planted. The analyzer begins to predict human behavior, to foresee betrayal, to read motives. He develops the ability to place scenarios in his mind, preparing himself for attacks that others never saw coming. But this stage has its own trap: overthinking. The analyzer may see so many possibilities that he becomes paralyzed by caution. He may miss opportunities because he is too busy planning. The true strategist, however, learns to strike with precision. He turns thought into action, not endless theory. He becomes dangerous because he knows both the terrain and the timing. Level 4, the manipulator of frames. Here intelligence transforms into influence. The manipulator understands that life is not about facts but about frames. He realizes that people do not see reality as it is, but as it is presented. And whoever controls the frame controls the power. At this level, a person becomes skilled in persuasion, deception, and psychological warfare. He knows when to stay silent, when to explain, when to deflect. He bends narratives to his favor. He sets traps not with swords, but with words. Machiavelli himself operated at this level. He knew that rulers who revealed too much truth lost their aura, and rulers who over-explained lost their dominance. The manipulator learns to appear generous while being ruthless, to project honesty while hiding his hand, to cloak weakness in strength and strength in weakness. This is the realm of political leaders, master negotiators, and cunning strategists. They do not simply play the game, they write the rules. Level 5, the architect of reality. At the peak lies the rarest form of intelligence, the architect. This is not just about gathering, analyzing, or manipulating. This is about shaping entire worlds. The architect does not merely adapt to circumstances, he bends circumstances to himself. At this level, intelligence becomes vision. The architect sees what others cannot even imagine. He designs systems, movements, legacies. He does not only play the game of power, he creates new games where he alone holds the advantage. Machiavelli described this in The Prince when he wrote of founders, rulers, and men who altered the very structure of nations. The architect is beyond cleverness, beyond manipulation. He engineers myths, reputations, and realities that outlive him. His intelligence becomes indistinguishable from destiny. This is the rarest stage because it demands mastery of all the previous levels. The ability to gather, to analyze, to strategize, to manipulate, and finally to create. Few ever ascend here, but those who do alter history itself. Conclusion. These are the 5 levels of intelligence through the lens of Machiavelli. From the imitator, trapped in borrowed thought, to the architect, who bends the world to his will. Most people will never rise above imitation. A smaller few will gather knowledge. Fewer still will analyze and strategize. Only the cunning will learn to manipulate frames. And only the rarest of all will ascend to the peak, to become architects of power. So I ask you again, which level are you in? And more importantly, do you have the will to climb higher? Because in the end, intelligence is not about being clever. It is about survival, dominance, and legacy. And as Machiavelli himself would whisper across centuries, the mind that does not rise will always be ruled by the one that does. Machiavelli never saw intelligence as a prize to be displayed. He saw it as a blade, sharpened not for vanity, but for survival and dominance. What most people call intelligence is nothing more than repetition, echoes of other men's thoughts, recycled ideas paraded as wisdom. The masses mistake memory for brilliance, imitation for originality. And that is why they are ruled. For in their hearts they do not think, they merely follow. But those who move beyond blind imitation discover that knowledge itself is a kind of wealth. They gather it, hoard it, surround themselves with books, words, and endless facts. Yet Machiavelli understood the tragedy of such men. They drown in their own libraries, unable to wield what they own. They possess information, but lack transformation. Their minds are crowded, but their actions remain empty. They have the map of power, but never set foot on the road that leads to it. The truth Machiavelli whispers across time is that intelligence without action is impotence. To know and not to apply is to remain a spectator in a theater where others play the leading roles. Power does not bow to the man who knows, but to the man who dares to use what he knows. Real intelligence lives in the ability to bend situations to your will, to see an opportunity where others see chaos, to strike when others hesitate, to retreat when others overextend. It is not about being right, it is about being effective. And yet there is a higher test. Once a man begins to use his intelligence, he must confront the question of morality. Will he dress his actions in the robes of virtue, or will he wield deception without shame? Machiavelli himself gave the answer. Appearances matter more than reality. A prince must seem merciful, faithful, humane, and honest, but he must be ready to discard each virtue when it no longer serves him. The truly intelligent man learns this art. He uses morality as a mask, a costume to keep the people calm, while his true mind works in shadows. The highest form of intelligence does not merely operate within the rules. It creates the rules. While the crowd accepts the game as it is, the rare few reshape the game itself. These are not players but architects, not pieces but the hands that arrange the board. They move unseen, constructing the very reality others live inside. When they speak, nations bend. When they withdraw, silence becomes heavier than words. And here lies the brutal conclusion Machiavelli pressed upon us. Intelligence is not static. It is a ladder, and every rung demands sacrifice. To climb it is to leave behind the comfort of the herd, the illusions of virtue, the safety of imitation. With each ascent, the air grows colder, the solitude deeper, the vision sharper. You will see more than others, but you will also feel the weight of that vision. True intelligence separates. It isolates you from the masses, but it also places you above them. So the question is not whether you are intelligent. The question is how far you are willing to go. Will you remain content with borrowed thoughts, echoing voices that are not your own? Or will you sharpen your mind into a weapon, one that bends the world to your will? The answer determines not only what you know, but who you truly are. Intelligence, in the end, is not a crown you wear, but a path you walk. Machiavelli reminds us that the true test of the mind is not in how much you know, but in how much you can shape the world with what you know. Most people waste their wit on arguments, on proving themselves, on trying to appear clever. The wise, however, use their intelligence as quiet leverage. They do not explain, they do not boast, they simply act. And perhaps that is the most Machiavellian lesson of all, that power is not found in words alone, but in the ability to bend silence, timing, and perception to your advantage. Intelligence, when wielded properly, becomes invisible. It does not shout, it whispers. It does not demand, it commands. And those who reach this understanding no longer ask which level they are in, for they have already left the game others are still trying to play.